Hello, my name is Ryan Knudtson from the University of Wisconsin-Stout, and today I'll be discussing sustainability efforts in packaging substrates. So a brief overview of this presentation. First, I'll be discussing what a substrate is and what are some of the examples that you see in industry and packaging formats. And then what are industry leaders doing as far as sustainability efforts, and what are some of the obstacles and solutions to these sustainability problems. So first, a general overview. What is a substrate? What is a packaging substrate? Well, a substrate essentially is the physical material where items are printed on. These items could be pictures, words, etc. And in packaging, there are many different coatings that are applied to these substrates. And for this presentation, I'll be discussing four major substrates, which includes paperboard, corrugated fiberboard, plastic, which includes plastic films, and labels. So the first part I'll be talking about today is paperboard. Paperboard is one of the most common packaging applications. If you walk in a grocery store, you see paperboard everywhere. Essentially, it is thick paper, and just like paper, it is composed of wood fibers that gives it its strength and properties. And there are many different grades of paperboard, many different thicknesses. This is expressed in points. And paperboard can be coated, it can be uncoated, which greatly affects printability. The amount of recycled content varies from one application to the next. And then it can also be bleached or unbleached, which not only affects printability, but also the recyclability of a product. So there are many different paperboard examples you're probably familiar with. The first one there is food. It is very extensively used in cereal packaging. It provides a great billboard, also used in frozen foods. Cosmetics and pharmaceuticals, it provides a great billboard as a secondary package to house a glass jar or a pill bottle. It's also used a lot in the medical device industry and the beverage industry. The beverage industry, you often see it in carrying cases, or in this example here, with a milk carton, it is used as one of the many layers of the milk carton to provide strength. So some of the benefits of paperboard, it does provide marketing with a very clean and attractive billboard to really grab that consumer's attention on shelf. As it's composed from wood fibers, it is a very environmental friendly option, a cost-effective option. That is why it is so heavily used in industry. And as I mentioned earlier, there are many different thicknesses and grades that in combination can be great for any individual product to meet the needs of that product. So Graphic Packaging is one of the largest suppliers of paperboard in the country, and these are some of their sustainability goals by 2025. First, they would like to increase the use of recycled content in their products, and that includes not only increasing the use of recycled content, but making sure that that product is still of the same quality and printability quality as a product that's composed of less recycled content. They would also like to increase the recovery of paper and paperboard up to 70%, and this includes investment in local recycling programs. And as you can probably imagine, this is a very energy extensive process. So they would also like to increase the use of renewable energy, including solar energy, and reduce the amount of water that they use in this process. This is a very water extensive process. Any paper making is water heavy, and they would like to drastically reduce the amount of water. So part two of this presentation, I will be discussing is corrugated fiberboard. The corrugated fiberboard is essentially kraft paper. So just like paperboard is composed of wood fibers, and there are many different combinations of these, the lining material and then the middle material there, the flutes as they're known, provide the strength to the packaging. And just like paperboard, this is a very cost-effective solution, and that's why so many companies turn to it. A cost-effective solution that provides great benefits to protect the product. And it is estimated, according to International Paper, that it touches 97% of all products. And it is very strong for its weight. And just like paperboard, it comes from trees and wood fibers. So it's a sustainable material. And there are many different suppliers around the world, which is a great advantage for the corrugated industry, as any company is very close to their supplier. So different examples of corrugated that you have probably seen in industry. As I mentioned, boxes, it is highly used in distribution environments. It's also used in higher end applications, as you see here in the point of purchase displays, end cap displays, the Colgate toothpaste, their example. But that's also used in, another example is in coffee. At Starbucks, their example, it's used as the drink holder around the container to protect your hands while using their product. So International Paper is one of the largest corrugated suppliers in the country, and these are some of their sustainability goals by 2020. They would like to plant, first, they would like to plant 7 trees for every one that they cut down. It's kind of a misnomer that trees are being deforested in your local neighborhood because of paper packaging. On the other hand, it's actually the more paper that is used, the more trees that are planted. And these trees often come from tree farms in the country. And they would also like to increase the recovery efforts, just like paperboard. This includes increasing the investments in local recycling programs and marketing efforts to let consumers know how to recycle their products. And then the same thing with paperboard. This is a very water intensive process, and they would like to add a dollar value to that to really get a handle on how much water is being used and how it affects their bottom line. So part 3 of this presentation, I will be discussing plastic, which includes plastic films. So plastic is a type of polymer. So just like natural polymers, it is a very complex chemistry, and packaging is used for many reasons. One of them being it's a cost-effective solution. It can for fast processing. But the other thing is that there are many different properties of plastics, and these can be used in combination to meet the needs of an individual product. So some of the advantages of plastic, it is a very flexible material. It is widely used because it is a low-cost material. And as I mentioned, many of these plastics can be combined in combination. So as you see in the example of the shredded cheddar cheese, the different plastics and polymers are combined in combination to provide different properties. One being for an example would be water barrier or oxygen barrier. It can also be used, layers can be used for printability, for strength of the package, and many different polymers. Another advantage is many different plastics can be recycled in local recycling programs. So some of the examples that you see in industry include films, as I mentioned, but also bottles, jars, pouches, which include stand-up pouches, and trays, thermoform trays, etc. So according to the World Economic Forum and Ellen MacArthur Foundation, there are many different things that the industry is looking at doing to increase sustainability and increase recyclability of plastics. One of them is the polymer choice. So as I mentioned, many layers are often used in combination. So as industry looks at ways of reducing that can greatly affect not only the cost and the amount of materials used, but then the chances that that material can be recycled, because these multi-layer materials can be very difficult to recycle. Another aspect of this is the additives and pigments used, and that can greatly affect the recyclability of these different plastics. But also another way is sustainability is in the design, and creating designs that still can provide the same benefits as current packaging, but use less materials and are easier to design, so they use less resources in the process. So the last part of this is last substrate I'll be discussing is labels. So labels are another very common packaging substrate application, and there are many different substrates that are used in combination to make up labels, which includes films, foils, paper, and labels essentially somehow have to adhere to the packaging. The packaging can be a glass jar, it can be a plastic bottle, etc. And there are many different types and sizes of labels that are used in industry. So some of the examples that you see in industry, first, one of the common ones is pressure-sensitive labels. Pressure-sensitive labels are common essentially through the use of pressure. The label is applied to the packaging. There's also peel and reseal labels. Peel and reseal labels are common in pharmaceuticals that can contain warnings or directions for use. And cut and stack labels are common in the beverage industry, where labels essentially are cut to form, stacked, and then through fast processing are applied, and adhesive is applied to make the label stick to the bottle. And then another example of labels is shrink labels. Shrink labels essentially, instead of an adhesive, they use heat. And the large label that you see on the Clorox bleach there is wrapped around the bottle, and then through heat shrinks the label down to size to adhere it to the package. And the last one is roll fed. Roll fed is used in high quantity applications, used in the beverage industry there, where essentially the label comes on large rolls and very quickly can be applied to the bottle with an adhesive. So some of the advantages of labels, as I mentioned, they can be applied to many different substrates. They provide great brand value, high imprintability, many different color choices that can be used in labels. They comes in many different shapes and sizes, and they provide adequate information to a product. And Inland Packaging out of La Crosse, Wisconsin, these are some of their sustainability efforts they're looking into down the line and trying to implement as they move forward. And as with the other industries I've mentioned, one of their main concerns is to invest in recycling programs around the country and to increase the consumer knowledge of recycling. And they would also like to use less materials in the product, find ways to still meet the needs of their customers by using less materials and combinations. And they've also looked at different ways to recycle the resources that they've used. And just like in the other applications I've discussed, these can be very extensive products to make. And one other thing that they are looking into and implementing are water-based gravure inks and soy-based offset inks that not only help the environment, but as they mentioned, help their workers in production. So the last part here I will be discussing is overarching what are some of the industry obstacles of sustainability. So according to Pereira in 2013, there are 4 major obstacles. The first one is a financial obstacle. As you can imagine, some of these sustainability efforts and research can be very there are many cost barriers. And there are also innovational barriers as products developed in using different materials, more sustainable materials, still finding ways to meet the needs of the product that still provide the same benefits of the packaging. And there are also institutional obstacles. Our country, for example, is set up for these current packaging substrates, and there are institutional obstacles that would require many overarching changes. And the final obstacle that he pinpointed in 2013 are the political and regulatory obstacles that come in this country and throughout different states. So to wrap it up here, some of the conclusions that Pereira outlined in his research. The first one is to educate the consumer on how to recycle certain products and what products can be recycled and what can't, and to have an understanding of their carbon footprint and the future of the earth and how the impact packaging can have on that. And also another solution to this problem is innovation and research, innovation in the different materials that are being used and other materials that are being used that can be more sustainable and cost-effective solutions. And as I mentioned earlier, one of the solutions of solving these problems is investment in marketing efforts to communicate this to the consumer, but thus also investments in local recycling programs. And then along this line, there also will need to be regulatory changes at the local level, at the state level, at the national level, at the international level that can affect the sustainability use in packaging and its effect on the world. And the final conclusion here is collaboration with industry experts, with suppliers, with companies, with local recycling programs, and to collaborate on the best needs for the world moving forward. And with that, here are some of my resources outlined in this presentation, and thank you for viewing.